Welcome to ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm Duke Oishi.
And I'm Maria Kashem.
In our show this time, we'll give you a taste of the Aloha Ruby on Rails conference that recently took place at the Sheraton Waikiki.
We'll introduce you to some of the speakers there and give you a handle on Ruby on Rails, a very popular computer language for the web.
The conference took place on October 8th and 9th. It began with a memorable morning keynote by Patterson on the subject of Rails 4 and the future of the web.
I'm here with Joreal and John, two of the organizers of the Aloha Ruby Conference, which is happening today and tomorrow here at the Sheraton Waikiki. Can you tell us what it's been like to organize the event?
It's been a year's worth of work. It's been a culmination of year-long effort from, we've got about 5 organizers. The team from the Sheraton Waikiki has been amazing. And then, a whole slew of sponsors. So we've had Akezo, which has been a really great sponsor for us, HTDC, Hawaii Broadband, Referentia, Tech Systems. So all of this was made possible by a great collaborative effort from multiple parties.
Yes, and you have a lot of speakers coming in from all over, correct?
Absolutely.
Yes,
So
speakers from the East Coast, West Coast, a couple from Canada, one all the way from the
Germany.
European area.
Yeah, Germany was one, and we've got some Japanese attendees as well. So it's been a slew of different attendees.
Yeah, we've also got a bunch of great sponsors from the mainland as well. We got Zendesk and Engie that are just really pushing everything forward.
Absolutely.
So are there any things you're particularly looking forward to that are happening?
I was really excited to see the keynote.
Yeah,
I love watching Aaron talk, and he's a great speaker.
Once you learn how to spot where shared data is happening in your application, it's actually pretty easy to eliminate that or put locks around it. And the reason I say that this is the most important thing you need to remember is because most people don't actually type thread.new in their applications. It's very rare. So if you're not actually spooling up new threads, then mostly what you need to do is watch out for shared data, and you need to look for things that are global. We're going to look at a few things that are global, like this. Obviously, if you're using global variables, it is a global and probably shared among threads. Another global that you need to watch out for are constants. Constants are going to be shared among threads. What's kind of annoying is if you set the constant twice, you're going to get a warning. Ruby will complain to you, but you can actually mutate a constant value, like down here on the bottom, and you won't get a warning about that. You're modifying global data, but you don't know. And I think the one that's most common are class level methods. Class methods like this. You have to remember that all of these classes are all shared among threads, and when you set a method on that class, that method is also shared among all of your threads. You need to be careful about these. So like I said, avoid global data, add locks.
Hi, I'm here with Constantine, Terrence, and Wesley. And Constantine, what will you be speaking about at the conference?
About internals of different implementations of the same programming language, how they basically, how they make programs run fast without changing the program itself.
Excellent. And Wesley, what will you be speaking about?
I'll be speaking about my experiences building community using open source.
And Terrence?
I'm not actually speaking at this conference.
But I'm sure there are some things you're looking forward to.
Oh yeah, well, I'm looking to hearing Constantine's talk about internals, and I enjoyed Aaron's keynote as well. And then I'm actually looking forward to Patrick's talk. I hear he's going to have some live coding, so it should be interesting.
Where are you from?
I came from Iowa.
Austin, Texas.
Berlin, Germany.
We attended some of the breakout sessions that followed. The first was Git and GitHub Success by Zach Holman. In the next room, there was My Server for Allure, How StarCraft Taught Me to Scale by Richard Schneeman. Here's our footage of Richard.
Okay, so if you have a really popular service, I might consider Wikipedia a really popular service, you are going to have compound writes or potentially compounding traffic. Luckily, Wikipedia is one of the few places that will actually give their traffic numbers, which is really cool. I got these in 2011, so they probably released some even more updated numbers. So these are the compound writes, and these are the compound edits. So as your service gets more and more popular, you will only get more and more writes. You will only get more and more reads. So if you have a problem with a slow web service, if you have a problem with throughput, it's only going to get worse. So this is all something to consider. So if we're going to be dealing with throughput, then we are going to be adding additional capacity. One area that we can really help with this is to split up our web, our workers, and our data store.
Then there was Evented Ruby versus Node.js by Jerry Cheung, and in the next room, Rails Development on Windows, Seriously, by Evan Machnic.
So what brings you to the conference today? You said you all work together?
Yeah, we're from a company, Referentia, and basically they sent us here to kind of help us learn more, I guess. I mean, they're all about development, right?
Right.
This is a good chance. I heard there's a lot of big names here as far as technology and a lot of people from Living Social. One of our coworkers actually went there, so he's like, yes, you should go. Ruby's awesome, or Rails awesome. And it's a good opportunity for us to do that.
There's two ways. You can either virtualize your environment to where you run Windows inside your Mac. Okay, I'm coming from a Mac, so bear with me if you're actually on Windows. So there's basically two ways. You can run a virtualized environment, either in like Parallels or VMware. So you're still in your Mac. Some of them actually abstract things out to where you kind of run a program, but it still looks like it's in a Mac. But that doesn't really give you the experience, right? So the other option is Boot Camp, and Boot Camp is a wonderful thing because it makes it very easy for you to get up and running. You don't really have to think about anything. You just kind of click buttons, and you have Windows installed on a separate partition. You can dual boot really easily. So this is great. It also gives you the ability to get completely immersed in Windows, which, I mean, that's a scary topic, but I mean, that's the only way you're going to actually get a feel for this stuff. The only way I could get a feel for this stuff,
We couldn't stay for the whole conference, but we did have a moment with Ben Orenstein, who was scheduled to speak on refactoring from good to great later that day. As the others, he's very talented.
I'm here with Ben Orenstein, who's one of our speakers today. Actually, right after lunch, you'll be up on stage. Can you tell us a little bit about what you'll be talking about today?
Yeah, absolutely. So the title of my talk is called Refactoring from Good to Great. And it's basically the ideas that I've picked up in like the last year or so about improving existing code. So I feel like I've learned a lot from the people I work with at Thoughtbot in Boston, and I wanted to share some of those ideas with the people here.
Wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about what Thoughtbot does?
Yeah, so we're a Rails consultancy. So mostly what we do is write Rails applications for companies, especially startups. But also we have more and more of a component where we're teaching. So we have a podcast now, and we are releasing screencasts and ebooks and things and workshops and things like that. So we're trying to do a lot of like educating within the community as well.
Wonderful. What are you looking forward to at the conference after your talk?
Besides just being in Hawaii, so there's actually a lot of good speakers here. It's great to see the turnout, I guess.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of pretty big Ruby names here. Like I love watching Chad Fowler speak. A handful of GitHub guys are great too. So looking forward to that stuff. And also just, being in the beautiful weather. I'm from Boston, like I said, so it's like 45 or 50 and rainy.
So you'll be getting out to the beach a little bit afterward.
Afterward, yes, absolutely. Yeah, try to be responsible.
Yes. How long have you been working with Ruby?
It's been about 4 years now, maybe about 5 years. I sort of was I was writing medical software for a company that I didn't really like in a language that I really hated. And then I was going home at night and writing Ruby, which was a lot of fun. So finally, after about 6 or 7 months of that, I managed to sort of finagle my way into a Ruby and Rails job with basically no experience at all. And that was my start. But it was a great transition.
That's wonderful. Would you have any advice for people who are getting into it now?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, so I went to I just got back from Magic Ruby, which was in Disney World. I came right here from there. My life is hard. And someone did a lightning talk he's saying, I'm a new Rubyist and I want, but this isn't really a lightning talk, this is a lightning question round where like, can you help me, how would I get a job? And there are a lot of good recommendations, one of which was find a local Ruby group. That actually goes a long way, because the truth of it is people tend to hire their friends.
Yeah.
Right, so like the more connections you can make in a local area, the better. And the thing is, you're playing a little bit with a stacked deck because the demand is insanely high for Ruby programmers right now. So it's easier than it ever was to get a job with no experience. So so yeah, make connections in the area, write a bunch of code on your own, seek out a mentor. Like it's actually not that hard these days. Fortunate for new people.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for speaking. And It's really nice to talk to you.
Likewise. Appreciate it.
There were many others that afternoon and the day following, all brilliant and experienced programmers. They came to Hawaii from all over the world, from the mainland, Europe, and Asia, to learn more about what's going on in Rails. It was an impressive crowd.
The conference was a credit to our tech community, to the sponsors who made it possible, and to the new generation of speakers and attendees who took it to this level. High-level computer programming is alive and well in Hawaii, and we should be very proud of that.
So, ThinkTech's Jay Fidel and Nicole Hori made their way around the room and spoke to a number of the speakers and attendees they found. Here's some of the footage they got of those discussions.
So Charlie, you're a speaker here at the Aloha Ruby Conference.
That's
what
correct.
will you be talking about?
I'm going to be talking about JRuby, which is a Ruby that runs on the Java virtual machine. About good reasons to use it, why it might be useful for folks.
Yes. Are there any other talks here that have been surprising to you or that you're looking forward to coming up?
Well, I'm looking forward to this one. I think the Ruby community's kind of ignored Windows in a lot of ways, and we'd really like to see more Windows support. It's one thing we've felt very important on JRuby, so I'm interested to hear what he has to say about it.
Yes. Are you someone who's been using Ruby for a long time?
Yeah, I've been using Ruby for 2004 or so, and most of that time actually working on JRuby. So a little bit of working on JRuby and then a lot of Ruby work as well.
What kinds of products is JRuby usually used for?
Well, JRuby kind of ends up being the Ruby that a lot of applications have to grow up into. As the amount of data being processed gets higher, the amount of concurrency that's needed, JRuby ends up being the right option for larger and larger applications. And if you're successful with a Ruby application, you'll eventually probably need something like that.
I'm actually a consultant, so I think that companies misuse consultants and go looking for too many rock stars when there aren't really that many of them out there, and they have their downsides. So my talk is a little bit about the pros and cons of rock stars and consultants and why you do and don't want them, and alternatives on how you can take your existing team and actually grow it.
What brings you to the Aloha Ruby Conference?
Well, I live here in Hawaii, and I'm an independent contractor consultant, and you have to stay current. Networking, finding out what the new things is, because I really haven't used enough Ruby in the last 2 years. A project here and a project there, but you got to be on it all the time.
The conference sponsors, including local ones, were as diverse as the speakers and attendees. Wait till you hear these names: Zendesk, Engine Yard, Agile Animal, Yammer, New Relic, Ion.io, Referentia, Ikezo, GitHub Social Coding, Sticker Mule, Ruby Central, Confreaks, the High Tech Development Corporation, Hawaii Broadband, and TEK Systems.
This is the second conference that is taking place, celebrating and exploring Ruby on Rails in Hawaii. We're hoping there will be more, and we're looking forward to the next one, with more people coming from faraway places to enjoy learning Rails here with our local Rails community.
This is the kind of tech conference that we really like, one that makes Hawaii look good on world-class technology, one that pushes the global envelope on programming, developing, and exporting IP, while attracting attendees from multiple continents. It doesn't get better than that.
If only we could do this more often than every 2 years and with more attendees, and if only we could do it for other programming languages too. Well, we can hope, can't we? What a great enterprise, what a great advance for Hawaii.
There were tons of people from far, far away, including Europe, including Asia.
Yes.
Gee whiz, whatever was going on was attractive to a lot of people, a lot of smart people who were heavily committed to programming. So what kind of crowd, what kind of demographic do you think we had?
I would say the demographic was very young. Obviously, Ruby is a new language, so it's something that if people got started programming it maybe 5 years ago when they were in college, that it's still a very young group. Yeah. And of course, there's some who are older, but Ruby is a language that's changing a lot and developing, so it's important to have conferences like this for programmers who are working locally to be able to see what's going on within the language and how it's changing and what new tools are coming out to make it more powerful and effective.
Yeah, that's the thing. As opposed to some of the other programming languages, this is very dynamic, and this has the attention of the young, smart programmer group. that wants to rule the world, with really fabulous leveraged programming. That's why it was so interesting. These guys are not going to take wooden nickels. They're serious programmers. So, I'm wondering, because it's so young, we must have a lot of people entering the field or maybe leaving the field because it's changing all the time. Did you see the same people on the second one that were there on the first one?
That's a good question. I definitely did see some of the same people there, but there's always new people to meet, and that's the great thing about a conference. You're running into wonderful people who have been working in this area and can give you ideas or make new contacts. There's a lot of people coming in because it is something where there's a high demand for work, and it's also a situation where people seem to be very encouraging about helping new people get started and learn and develop their own skills.
Yeah.
So if someone's interested in starting with a language, I think it's a good one just because of the community that's developed around it.
Yeah. I also had the feeling that this language was changing. The language itself was changing.
I definitely think so.
New routines, new functionality, new way of dealing with variables and memory and what have you, way beyond languages that were popular 5-10 years ago. This is the modern, most powerful language really ever available in the program community for, interface and for data-driven applications and so forth. And I think there's a real future here. But at the same time, I don't feel that the money and the power is behind Ruby on the Rails.
Interesting.
It's a young group. Microsoft is not involved. The big multi-billion-dollar corporations are not there.
You're still seeing Ruby powering some very influential online websites and so forth.
That's true.
So, if someone's working with Ruby, I think the pay scale is very good for a programmer.
That's
because
true.
there's a lot of demand for it because it is powerful. And then if they want to start their own company too, they have a lot of options.
Yeah. I think, if you were a young programmer and you had to choose which way to go, which language to take, where you spend your time, I would choose Ruby on Rails. I would, for sure. And you knew 2 years ago because you already understood the direction, even though it wasn't as clear 2 years ago. Where do you see it going?
Well, I can't make any forecast about whether I think it'll be 1 year or two, but I do expect there to be another conference by these organizers very soon. And I think that just the fact that there is so much interest means you don't really have to broaden it too much. You could have a conference that's solely focused on Ruby on Rails. What we've got here is very special, and I hope they continue it.
And now, let's take a look at our ThinkTech calendar of events going forward.
ThinkTech's 4 to 5 p.m. Drive Time radio series on KGU 760 AM continues this week. Tune in to 760 AM for Tech on Wednesday, Asia in Review on Thursday, and ThinkTech Fridays on Friday. Raise your awareness on ThinkTech Radio. On December 6th, HVCA and ThinkTech will present the annual Entrepreneur of the Year Awards at a luncheon program at the Plaza Club. Sign up for these programs on hvca.org. And now, here's Bill Spencer, president of the Hawaii Venture Capital Association, with this week's Spensation.
What do you suggest to our next president, whoever he may be?
Well, we have talked about it over the years, and I think the issue for me is a shift of priorities. It's time to stop fighting wars and shift our resources to education, number one. Teachers shouldn't be the lowest paid professionals in our land. And I think by improving the quality of education, by improving salaries, by creating incentives for teachers to do a better job, we can maybe shift this drear rating of our students at the high school level, get more out of high school, more into college, and more on their way to higher education. So that would be priority number one. Number two for me, as we've discussed before, is dealing with the student loan problem. And I think the best way to do that is to provide waivers for community service by college students and graduate students in underserved areas, just like was done many years ago in the healthcare industry by the National Health Service Corps. Models exist today. It can be done, and it's a way to give those college students who today are underemployed real-world experience, so that when they do enter the job market, they'll have something more than a degree under their belt and no experience.
So important.
Third, I think we really have to fix the immigration problem, especially as it relates to students who come from all over the world to occupy more than 50% of our graduate level training seats, who after they get their PhDs in engineering and science and medicine can't go back, or rather can't stay and work in America, which is sort of what they're aiming for anyway.
Yeah, they like to do that, so it's a great loss for us to lose them.
It's a huge loss. It's a huge loss of potential, of intellectual property, and it's a disaster, especially because we don't have our own students in those chairs. So the least we can do is help the ones that do come here and take advantage of our great educational system in the graduate level to train themselves and become productive members of our society if that's what they choose. So I think we need to fix those things. That should do something to help. Further, I'd like to see the politicians put their money where their mouth is when it comes to innovation and entrepreneurship. I'm really sick and tired of hearing about all this talk about how innovation and entrepreneurship is going to save our economy, when in fact there's no money for seed level startup. The Startup America program, which was announced 2 years ago, has done virtually nothing. A lot of talk, a lot of innovation talk, but really what's really needed is investment capital for early stage companies. The venture capital industry has moved away from that. Angel investors do pick up a big share of the load, but we've got to do something to stimulate entrepreneurship. When people talk about small business, what comes to mind is mom and pop stores, bakeries, corner groceries, candle stores, but that's not really what's going to build our economy. Those are lifestyle businesses, and more power to them. But what we need is businesses that are going to create jobs, create strength in various tech industries, and that's going to require some pump priming. So I think that's where the government could step up and shift some of their resources that have been going to fighting wars over oil and actually help build the economy. And finally, for those same startup entrepreneurs, I would encourage revisiting our regulatory infrastructure and understanding that there are unintended consequences of lawmakers trying to protect the environment and protect us against ourselves. The precautionary principle has got to be eased for startup companies. How can you start a business if it takes years and years just to get the regulatory process, get through the regulatory process, and get all the permits you might need to do something that's never been done before, that's truly innovative? We've got to fix our patent office. It shouldn't take 5 years to get a patent through, And these are all things that I think are shifts in priorities that could really fast track what is at the core of our economic need, which is better educated workforce, entrepreneurial growth and innovation, and keeping the highly educated that tap our university resources, keeping them here if they want to be here.
You know, if you synthesize all of that, Bill, it really sounds like opening the door and encouraging the next generation to come through it. We have to build the next generation. We're not doing that. We're making some sort of broad, unsupported assumption that they'll find a way, but they're not finding a way, and they won't find a way without our help from the government. So I think those are great ideas, all of them, and I hope that whoever gets in hears you, listens to you, and I'm really, really tragically sorry that you didn't run instead. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome, Jay.
We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech, but first, we want to thank our underwriters.
Thanks to the Schuyler Family Foundation. It supports a number of educational, cultural, and charitable organizations, including ThinkTech.
Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Miko on Maui and Helco on the Big Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve.
Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company, and CEO of CBI Polymers, a tech company in Hawaii.
The High Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Castle and Cook Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around its mission of investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state. Okay, Maria, that wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 several times every week. Can't get enough of it, just like Jay Fidel does. For additional times, check out oc16.tv.
You bet, Duke. For lots more ThinkTech videos and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities on ThinkTech on OC16, visit thinktechhawaii.com. Be a sponsor or a volunteer and help us reach Hawaii.
I'm Duke Oishi. Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech. You can watch this show throughout the week and tune in next Sunday evening for our next important weekly episode. Aloha, everyone.
I'm Maria Kashem. See you next time.